Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nala.
And I'm Faith.
And this is the Siren's Den breakdown, theories, and things you may have overlooked for episode 7 of WandaVision.
Oh, this is your official spoiler warning.
This episode had me screaming a lot. It was just really awesome on a lot of levels. A lot more questions have been answered. And it was just all in all super badass episode. I think even before the episode starts, when we're looking at the previously on, a lot of people have pointed out that it gets progressively less cheerful when she's saying previously on WandaVision, which I noticed, but I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Like maybe I'm just so used to hearing it that I'm like, okay, yeah, it sounds the same, but you look at it and you're like, no, she sounds really depressed. Like it's getting worse for her. And obviously that plays into this episode where she's just starting to lose control.
Yeah. So let's I guess jump into it. We start off with our cold open. So Wanda just Omega level magicked the night away. Wild night, magic hangover. She's just feeling really bad about herself, kind of spiraling a little bit. And she's lying in bed. But that's when we get our first kind of in character, or what's when they pop out. What is that called? When they
the
pop out for the interview?
monologue.
Yeah, it's the inner monologue. It's the confessional.
Oh, yes,
I knew that. But we get her confessional, where she kind of is explaining that she doesn't really quite know how she did it. She's feeling bad about things. She just needs some time away from this whole mess and the situation. Meanwhile, the kids are freaking out because their video game, like the controller, it keeps switching to like an old 80s controller to like Uno cards to like a PS, like it's fluctuating through the decades.
I absolutely did. I love this cold open for several reasons. One, when it flashes back to the scene of the hexagon expanding. In the previous episode, it was like really serious and like everyone was like, oh my God, what's happening? And this, when they flash back to it, it's just got this like upbeat tempo music. It's like do 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 do, and it's just like it's supposed to be funny as they're all screaming, honestly, like terrified. And it's just it was hilarious. I absolutely love that part. But also when they say that their game is freaking out, because obviously to her it just means the game's glitching. Maybe something's wrong with the game itself or the cartridge, but no, the essence of their game is freaking out. And this is obviously before she knows what's happening. She thinks that all she did was expand the hex and that everything else is fine, but it's obviously not.
Yeah, no, I really liked her line about I'm going to take a self-imposed staycation that will really teach me a lesson for adding more people into this otherworldly hex that I've created. Can we also talk about like going back to Elizabeth Olsen, like how she's been nailing her acting just for everybody or for all these scenes? Something like while she's fluctuated throughout these decades, I've also noticed like just like hints and notes of other actresses' performances. Like there was a bit like she had huge Lucille Ball energy when in that 50s episode. And like she definitely, like a lot of her performance for that 60s episode was inspired by the original Bewitched. Like you could kind of see it in her mannerisms and kind of how she presented herself as a character. And that translated over to here. This was really Claire, like Claire Day. That was the mom on Modern Family, right? Or I get her mixed up with another actress all the time. But the mom on Modern Family, that was such
Julie
performance.
Bowen. Yes,
Julie Bowen. Okay.
Absolutely. She did a great Julie Bowen. And Julie Bowen actually made a post on Instagram saying that she watched the episode, and it was on the anniversary of them filming the last episode of the last season. And she was like, it was just amazing to be considered with one of these classic TV shows. And that she was like, it was uncanny, like watching someone play kind of me so well. I like this milk scene, specifically because it starts off with almond milk, which is a very now thing.
Mhm.
And it's like, I love the little detail because I also was like, it was very subtle when it switched to the other milk carton, and I was like, hold on, did I see something? Like it making you question yourself the way Wanda's questioning herself.
Yeah. They also, I was thinking that when also when I was watching just the scene when the video game controllers are changing,
Mm.
like the editing in that looks so effortless. Because when I went back to watch it a few times, I really wanted to see, because I was curious how they did it, because it was just that single shot of the two of them.
Mhm.
Like, was it just like, were they holding like a green box and like reacting to it as if it, or did they like actually like have those different things and just splice together perfectly these kids playing with weird objects? Like, yeah.
I'm excited to see the episode, or the special that they do with the behind the scenes of how they made this show,
Yeah.
because I'm excited to see the inner workings of how they did it, because they're killing it. She eats some cereal. She's questioning why the milk is changing. She doesn't know if it's just residual powers or whatever, but I like that the milk carton turns into a slightly old-timey one with a missing child
Yeah,
on
one of
it.
the Milk Buckets cartons, which
Yeah.
also, it's brilliant on an art direction level, because first off, foreshadowing is
Mhm.
beautiful there. Second off,
Absolutely.
like that is such like just a reminiscent of that era. Uh,
It's yeah, no, I love the foreshadowing, as we'll get to later on in the episode, but just missing children for the children, kids are once again a big plot point in this show. And obviously, no, the art direction is fantastic, especially considering all the hexagons that are happening and continue to happen. I love that the cereal she's eating is circus themed, just like the circus she just turned the
I
whole
like that
sword
it
and
was
Caitlyn
called
into.
Sugar Snaps.
Yeah, yep. Like that Thanos snap that again she just recovered from. Like this is, you think this is happening, this has happened for years, and that she's had so many like years to grieve Vision's death and whatnot, but the truth is she hasn't. She got snapped as soon as he died. She saw him die twice. She got snapped. She came back. Suddenly it's 5 years later. Wanda's going through a lot. Like she is going through a very rough time. And she just keeps saying that like everything's fine. Which brings us to the opening. I think this is one of my favorite openings.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
so well done.
First off, it was a straight off Office ripoff in the song.
Mhm. Mhm. Which it
Like
had to be. There's no
like
other way.
when there's the like every theater class has the piano prodigy, right? Who can
Mhm.
always just kind of riff off of anything. And that definitely just felt like that kid being like, here's the WandaVision song as the Office.
Yeah.
Like it
Love
was
it.
the visuals for the episode, I thought funny enough, because they only showed the WandaVision name, just like WandaVision, WandaVision, and just a bunch of variations on the name. And that is actually reminiscent of a sitcom called Happy Endings that was created by the Russo brothers.
I actually just want to point out that it's only Wanda, and I think that was very interesting because in all of the other theme songs, it was WandaVision. WandaVision was very much a point in it. Like in the last one, they start off by saying like WandaVision, and it's like always WandaVision, but this one's just Wanda, and I thought that was very interesting. And I think my favorite one is that a Wanda shows up as newspaper clippings or magazine clippings, like a kidnapper ransom note. And
Yeah.
when it pulls out, you see the actual full note, which says, "I know what you are doing, Wanda." And I'm like, "Hang on, wait, what? Go back. That's a little creepy." So I thought that was very interesting. It's like Wanda isolated. That's very much what she is right now. And then by the end, it goes into WandaVision, which is, yeah, absolutely the happy endings theme, because it starts off with just happy and then goes to happy endings. But with that, we get the Modern Family look with the font and the color scheme. Loved the theme song. Super, super well done. And I like that it says in the end created by Wanda Maximoff, because she was always just starring. It never was like this was created by her.
Right. So moving on to what was probably the least significant scene of the whole series is you have Tyler Hayward and nameless agent number 1 looking at the expanded hexagon and being like, that's bad. She's like to Hayward, hey, that was really lucky that we got out of it, that she stopped it when she did. And he was like, yeah, it was, really happy about it. And then was like, okay, tell them to do the thing in a few minutes, blah, 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 blah. That was the scene. That was, it was mainly, I think, just to confirm that Tyler indeed got out and that he's going to do something to the town that we don't know what it's going to be yet, but he's planning something. It's, yeah, that was the scene.
It's nice to see that it was funny to see that Westview is just trapped in a giant D20.
Yeah.
So then we go from the 16:9 aspect ratio of the real world to the full screen of the sitcom world.
Yeah. And this time we have Vision, who is waking up after what was just an eventful night. He's alive. He's in his full Vision outfit. And he's in a field. We've all had those nights. No shame, buddy.
I love this scene for a lot of reasons. But one, because he wakes up and not only did I thought it was very smart, because I thought Wanda would just pause everything and then go and bring Vision back from outside. But she actually expanded the hex, and that works for 2 reasons. Because 1, it brought Vision back, but 2, when it brought him back, he was back in the world, and instead of being like, this was where I crossed over to the other side, it's like, wait, did I cross over to the other side? Like, this is now my reality again. Kind of almost gaslighting him in a way, of making him think that that was all a dream and this is still your reality. But obviously he retains his memories, and I love this scene that we get with Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
She gets her own little confessional.
Yeah. So Vision, he appears in the circus, and that's what I like that she turned all the sword agents into clowns. I think I touched on that last week, but
and besides, like, it just works to have all these tents. Like, what else would you transform a giant tent of a government operation into? Obviously, a circus tent would be the next best thing. Yeah. But I love that Darcy is the escape artist, because she was handcuffed to the car originally.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Beautiful. I mean, I wanted, obviously I wanted a little Two Broke Girls cameo, but this absolutely makes sense, because yes, she would be part of the circus.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, I love the circus. This was a fun scene, because Vision, it's the classic misunderstanding scene where Vision's like, we had an unspoken thing between us last night. We locked eyes. And obviously that was true, but she's like, this guy's coming on to me and he looks so funky, and then decides to peace out.
Total agreement. That whole moment just made me laugh.
But we take it back to
Wanda.
Wanda's breakdown.
Yeah, Wanda was such a mood in this scene. So we come back to Wanda. The kids are like, Mom, you seem a little bit off. Where is Dad? And Wanda is just like, I don't know. It does nothing. I don't know. Nothing. Everything's meaningless. And then the kids are like, you said Uncle Pedro said something about killing Dad twice. And then Wanda was like, that's not your uncle. Don't talk about him. And the kids are like, well, if he's not our uncle, who was this man who lived in our house for a day? And then Wanda snaps. She tells the kids that she thinks everything's meaningless. They're welcome to draw their own conclusions. She just sits down and watches TV. The kids just kind of look at each other like they mom's having a breakdown and this is bad. And then Agnes comes, nick of time,
Save the day. Yeah, right on cue.
Can I also, so Catherine Hahn, again, we have the mandatory Elizabeth Olsen is phenomenal in the acting in this at all times. Catherine Hahn, later in the episode, it confirmed things that we've been saying from the beginning. It's that she's been so specific in the intentions and the subtext of her acting throughout all of these episodes.
Absolutely.
And the genuine look of concern that just flashed on her face when she saw the state of Wanda.
She thought it was bad. Which is funny because this is something just to point out about the art direction. Again, just a lot of art direction call outs in this show because they definitely killed it. We don't see Wanda with her usual red color scheme. She's basically red in every episode, like her Scarlet Witch persona. But this one, she's got those cool dull colors. And, I realized after you said that she was such a mood this episode, yes, I related to her on a spiritual level, probably because I actually look like that right now. I've got that bedhead, nothing in this universe matters. What is going on? I feel like we all related to Wanda this episode. We, just like it said in the opening, it said, "Sorry, we're Wanda. We are." But I loved Agnes this episode because, again, she's just like Wanda's starting to not hide who she is. Neither is Agnes. She comes in through the door that Wanda opened with her magic and just was like, that was normal. She's the only one who doesn't really question Wanda. And yeah, I like her line about biting the kids. I thought that was hilarious. I bit a kid once, and it's so funny because she looked like she was proud of herself, which might be, again, is just foreshadowing that she does have malicious intent when it comes to the children.
Yeah, that was definitely a line that was just kind of eerie in context of everything else.
Again, another homage to this episode's art direction in particular is just they just got everything and started mashing it together. All of the furniture changes, the TV changes from a flat screen to an old 80s or an old timey box television set. And, when she talked about the milk carton, she was like, yeah, that was just like a blip. Like, I'm just tired. I need my coffee. But now it's like everything is changing and falling apart. And it seemed to happen just as soon as Agnes left. So that's I think another telling moment in this episode.
My favorite part of that moment, though, is the fact that it ended on the confessional of her looking deadpan into the camera after all that happened.
Saying, I'm fine, multiple times.
I was really waiting for them to make a "this is fine" joke with the dog on fire and everything.
That's exactly what it is. I also love that it was kind of a callback to Mrs. Hart, talking about that those characters may be coming back again. Because that's essentially what she did as well when she told her to stop that. And now she's obviously breaking down enough to also just say that everything's fine.
So we cut back to our girl Monica and our boy Jimmy. And Jimmy! Mandatory Jimmy Appreciation Hour. The next hour of the podcast will be Brent appreciating Jimmy Woo. And then we'll go back to the breakdown.
I am always down for that.
But anyway, they get Darcy's email where, oh, shocker, Tyler Hayward has been using Vision to try and remake a weapon. What?
And he's trying to get him back.
You couldn't figure this out from how suspicious he was acting the whole time.
No.
He didn't practically tell them all this with all of his actions and bad decisions. This is our Jimmy Woo hour, appreciation hour just finished. This is our Tyler Hayward hate hour. The next hour of the podcast will be spent.
Oh, I love it.
We can go back. But we have to hate
But
him
we
for now.
also need to we'll have this later on in the episode, but stay tuned for our Monica Rambeau Appreciation Hour.
Oh, yes, yes.
And just everyone in this show, I love them all so much.
Yeah, it's the
so
everyone
good.
appreciation hour and then the Hayward hate hour. As a palate cleanser to remind us that not everyone is this good. Some people really suck.
I love all these characters. I want to give them all a big, finally vaccinated hug. So we finally get to see the people that Monica is meeting up with, and this was a very interesting reveal. And we'll get into that in a second.
It was a super, super important character that only true comic book fans will get. And if you are not a true comic book fan, if you don't know who this is, then you are not a true comic book fan. I'm sorry, we can't tell you.
We don't come up with the rules.
We don't. It was Officer Goodner, guys.
I was a little off put by this character at first, and then obviously I started reading more theories on her. I don't think this was a mistake. Nothing in Marvel is a mistake. I think everything is planned. Obviously, they know who this character is, and I think because no one knows who she is, makes her a perfect candidate for being a Skrull. Definitely am on board with the idea that she is a Skrull, simply because she is this unknown character. We have seen a shapeshifter character before, close with Monica, so we know that is definitely a story that they can do. So I'm putting my money on the little Skrull girl that was Talos's daughter from Captain Marvel, which would be awesome. But it still doesn't dismiss the Reed Richards theory either, because she could be working with him as well. And because when they reveal the space suit, and it's like a space rover that she brought for them, that's something that I think Reed Richards would absolutely have a hand in making.
Reed Richards, as we know from the Fantastic Four, we know we're going to be getting more Fantastic Four content at some point, probably in the near future. And something I do want to point out about this military, because when she got there, it was a whole military unit that was there to greet her. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't. So I think what I'm saying, it doesn't have to be Agent Goodner's the engineer. We don't know that for sure. Agent Goodner might have just been the escort for the heavy military equipment, because when Monica originally was talking about an aerospace engineering friend, she said that the friend could pull some strings, right? So this is a result of that friend pulling whatever strings.
Absolutely. And with
that doesn't mean that friend is going to be there. That could also just mean that when Monica's talking about my guy is going to meet us there, it can just easily be my guy pulled the strings and the stuff is going to be there. This is who's going to meet us there. So I don't think that Goodner is the aerospace engineer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this all ties in really well with Fantastic Four. The Skrulls, I feel, tie in also very well because they deal so much with space. Obviously, they were on a spaceship, as their hideaway, and now they're living amongst, the humans on this planet. But I think the Fantastic Four works with the Skrulls because she talks about being loyal to Monica thanks her for being loyal to her mother, and she says that's not the only, captain we're loyal to, which could mean a lot of things. It can either mean they're loyal to Captain Marvel. It could mean they're loyal to Nick Fury. It could mean that they're also loyal to the Fantastic Four, maybe all of them. They all are kind of working together because S.W.O.R.D. has been established for, it seems like in the universe, a decent amount of time. And a lot of people could have come and gone through S.W.O.R.D., including the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So we go back to Vision and Darcy. He's pursuing her, like desperately trying to get her to listen. And Darcy just thinks this weird clown is following her around and is insistent on a date. And she finally relents. She's like, fine. And Vision tricks her into turning around and just kind of a look at her type trick, and then brings her out of it.
Just more praise on Darcy for absolutely killing it with such the subtle jokes. Like she's always had the best little like quips and one-liners, and that is evident in this scene when Vision tries to distract her by saying that the mime is carrying something too heavy for him, to which she responds in complete concern and honesty, "Oh no, your bad back." I just thought that was a very cute and little Darcy moment.
Yeah, it was very in her character.
Mm-hmm.
I also liked how she, of all the people who've been brought out of this kind of nightmare warped reality, she had the least freak out of all of them. Probably because she hasn't been there nearly as long, but also she's had a lot of experience with this.
Absolutely, and she
this isn't
mentions
her-
when she gets blipped or like brought back into her consciousness, that she wanted to be a guest star on this show, but now that she knows what they actually go through, which is this seemingly like out of body mind control experience, she actually knows how much it sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of, I think, went into it expecting, kind of already having that firewall in herself to like not let it take too much of her sanity.
Yeah, I think she just was a character who was built to handle this reality better. But yeah, she kind of relays to Vision what they know. The guy, the strong arm guy, the one who chained her to the car, the one who's been kind of a dick to her the whole time since she's got here. Other than Hayward, there's been a lot of that at Sword, really. But this guy's less significant than Hayward, so we don't really talk about him that much. But he's like, guys, it's your part on stage. You gotta get on. And they're like, no. And they steal a circus van. Darcy's the getaway driver. Once again, Darcy's always the getaway driver. Can we also talk about that? That's just another detail of her character that because that was in the movies. She was always the one driving. Because the very first Thor movie, they're chasing the Thor storm of him coming to Earth, and Natalie Portman's yelling at her to drive the van, and she's like, "You're not paying me to do this."
I love that. I feel like it's in her contract. Darcy's like, "I like driving."
This is where my favorite line of the episode was, and it was simply Paul Bettany yelling, "Drive!" Just the pure like annoyance and like severity of just the way he yelled drive at her. Like it was just such an escalation of what the moment was and like how his character was acting at her, that this one shot of him, like, that this was the director being like, okay, Paul, for this one, just like really go over the top with it. And that was the result of it. And that's the one they used. And it just, that moment killed me. And then just them driving around in circles very slowly in the circuit.
So another part I liked about this little exchange is he asks Darcy, he's like, "I have questions," and she's like, "I have answers." And then when they go into the van, he asks the question that he has, and she does not have answers. He asks where if his children are safe, and she says, "I don't know." And who is Pietro? And she says, "Beats me." And he's like, "Oh, great. I just wasted my time on this person who actually does not have the answers," which I thought was funny. But I love that part that she is the getaway driver. That is great. And Vision is just his want to still remain in character when he interacts with other characters is very endearing. Like how he talks about how the agents double booked them for this gig, and I thought that was also hilarious.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how even though he is broken from this reality in which he's not being controlled by it, there is still a subtle part of him and Darcy who are playing by Wanda's rules and don't even realize that they're doing so. That's just such a cool world building detail. Can we also just talk about, I think one of the show's strongest suits, and Marvel does this really well in general, but they always are so amazing at building these just really intricate worlds with very detailed rules that are simple for like the audience to understand, but they're still so like lively and real. And I think WandaVision has done that exceptionally well. And
it definitely, it plays out like a comic book. Like it really is very good at telling such succinct stories in like a panel by panel, everything inside the panel means something, and they were really good at framing each of the shots. Like a good comic book
Love the world building. I love what they're I love what they're doing here.
And
I
actually, this one is specifically like world
Mhm.
unbuilding, world demolition.
Yeah, that really brings us to our next scene where she goes into her kitchen, or it was no, she went into the living room, and everything again starting around her is starting to just glitch out into different decades. We see like wallpaper rolling on the wall, and we
Mhm.
see more of her magic that wasn't even era specific start to come into play. That stork that she could not get rid of when the episode where the babies were born, episode
Mhm.
3, runs into the scene and explodes. That leads to her confessional where she's just kind of laughs and she's at her wits end because she doesn't know what's happening. And the director voice asks,
Do you think maybe
she
it's what you deserve?
yeah,
That was ooh, loved it, loved it. Because then she freaks out and she says, "You're not supposed to talk," which is again, she's breaking the fourth wall, which is what the name of this episode is. But also the voice sounded unnatural.
it was
Because it was
almost like it was pitched or something.
yeah,
I don't
like it was
maybe the rest of the episode might reveal that, or I don't know.
they definitely fixed it in post,
But
which is funny because it's like, yeah, this whole thing is supposed to be a show that someone actually did post production on. So it's like it's funny to see these little behind the scenes things. But she also just starts to be like, wait, what is happening to me? What is this me? Am I breaking down? And someone is able to break through, or is someone controlling me?
yeah, I
And not only that, but it's the question. He says, "Is do you think this is what you deserve?" Like, what a thing to say to
yeah,
someone. Like, what
and
an awful
especially
thing to say to someone.
but with that confessional, also we know the question. Yeah, we know that's exactly what she thinks. I think that's why it takes her off guard. A, the
Mhm.
director's not supposed to talk. B, confessionals are used in sitcom to show the inner mind working of the characters. It is quite literally just the
Their inner
character's inner
thoughts.
thoughts.
Mhm.
But that is also Wanda. That's exactly why she thinks this is happening. She does think that she does deserve this. It is
Mhm.
a question that is asked to her and answered just through the, once again, brilliant use of a sitcom and being able to tell this deep, intricate story.
Which, leads us perfectly into the commercial in which we see the parents yet again. They're back. Or at least we think they're the parents. I'm pretty sure that's a pretty good theory that we're onto.
I think
Um,
at this point, if it's not true, it's better. Our idea is better. So
Absolutely, and
we're
we
gonna
should have
say
written this whole
we're
show.
going off it that it's true. We're gonna refer to them as the parents from now on because it should be.
But I like that it's for a drug called Nexus.
Yeah, because
That's
Wanda is a Nexus
Yep,
being.
yep, which is
I
bringing in that multiverse thing that it seems like Marvel is now starting to do with the acquisition of Fox,
mhm.
and Sony properties. They're
Uh,
opening up that multiverse again, and Wanda is the one constant throughout all the multiverses.
yeah.
But this
For people
commercial
who
was
don't know,
very
or
funny.
yeah. So for people who don't know what a Nexus being is in the Marvel universe, a Nexus being is someone who is constant throughout the multiverse. They are an anchor. That
Mhm.
is just a singular, like it's an anchor. It's an anchor
Yeah.
in a cluster multi realities.
And I want to bring up something when she goes into the doctor's office. The doctor is played by what we think is the dad, and you see there are a bunch of pill bottles. There is a pill bottle that says multi, which again, yeah, for multivitamin, sure, but also for multiverse, definitely. But what I like is when you see the actual logo for Nexus when he gives her the pill bottle, you see there's kind of like a Nordic knot, like a Celtic knot design on the box. And
Mm.
I know that that is something that's heavily tied in with Thor and Norse mythology and how they have those kind of symbols.
Yeah.
And Thor is also, you have Heimdall who can see through the 9 realms. Like that's bringing in more of that other world, other universe theory into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when it comes to Thor, that was kind of the closest that we've got to this type of magic. Like I know Doctor Strange is a sorcerer, he has magic too. That's a different, like, I mean, it's the same magic in universe, but it's like at least genre of magic, it's a different thing. But the Thor, that type of magic, that kind of more fantasy myth based, mythology based magic, in WandaVision, that's the closest thing that we've had up until now. So that would make sense that if it did tie into it in some way. I didn't notice the Celtic knot until you brought it up. The scene with Agnes, the kids say, or Billy mentioning that she's quiet, she has no thoughts coming from her. That's creepy as heck. Also, once again, Catherine Hahn's very specific acting in that moment was so genuine of panic at a child's question, not knowing how to answer it.
Yeah. She did a really good job this episode of just being a little more sinister and kind of also being like, okay, we're getting to the end now. We need to wrap this up. Like they're getting close to finding something out, and that might not be good for me, so I need to get rid of them as soon as I can, because that's the last time we see the kids. Is that scene after he says that she's quiet and she doesn't know how to answer that, and then we don't see the kids again, so something happened.
But then why does she want these superpowered kids in the first place?
I think she just is like realizing that these kids are maybe a little more powerful than she expected them to be.
Yeah,
especially with Billy and Wiccan. She's like, wait, you can read people's thoughts. Like all this time she's asked as Agnes when Sparky died, why you can do that, you can bring people back from the dead, and she, Quicksilver also has questions. Like she's also trying to get some use out, talking about magic in that other episode, and like how that kept them alive. It's something that all connects, and I think that she's like, okay, I have to get rid of these kids one way or another. Now we go back to reality, back with Monica. This awesome sequence.
Okay, that was, first off, this whole scene was just a visual feast for the eyes. We see her try to penetrate the barrier with a moonlander. The moonlander starts to change, so she bails out of there before it can change her, and then she decides, no, I'm gonna go for it anyway, and goes into the hex. And it is such a visual treat of her trying to break through. It's beautiful, it's colorful, it is her pushing through the barrier. We see all of the versions of Monica that we have seen before. We see her as 60s Geraldine, 70s Geraldine. We see her in the jumpsuit that she wore when she first started entering the hex. And all the while, she's having all these just flashbacks in her mind of just people talking to her.
It was mainly her mom.
It was mainly her mom and Marvel. And it's just kind of summarizing everything that she's kind of been through, the relationship that she had with her mom, the relationship that she had with Captain Marvel. It kind of ends on Carol's line when she was a kid of when your mom was when they were handing out children, your mom got the bravest one of all. Which I think it was such a beautiful summary of like her mom and her relationship with her mom, this person, who's the big loss that she's experienced in her life. And it gives her the power to push through with powers unharmed through the barrier.
This scene honestly made me tear up. I was about to cry because it's probably my favorite superpower, like acquiring superpower scene that I've seen in the Marvel universe. It was so beautifully done. I mean, even from the beginning, like this whole scene was awesome. The suit that she was wearing already looked very fantastical, maybe fantastic fourical. And so that is, again, just more bringing in perhaps Reed Richard might be making an appearance. I love that the space rover turned into a truck when it came back out. Again, just rewriting reality. The whole like shot of the spaceship, when she's inside the rover was beautiful, but no, her going inside the hex, that was so good. You could like see her DNA get rewritten. You could see how painful it was, not just not only physically painful, but just because another thing I liked about it is you got to see her in not only different parts of her being in WandaVision with 70s Geraldine and 60s Geraldine, but you also saw different parts of her life, like when she woke up from finding out her mother died, to, that first part. But then when she decided to bring all that back together and then boom, her eyes turned blue. Oh, it was so good, so beautiful. We stan Monica
Yeah.
Rambeau.
Can we
I absolutely loved her power getting sequence. It was beautiful.
Yeah. We talk about how for Wanda this whole thing has been like a couple of weeks that all this trauma. Infinity War happened, she blipped, or she watched him die twice, she blipped, she came back, she beat his ass, and now she's at Westview. But Monica's loss has been just as recent. As far as she's concerned, her mom had a surgery. It went great. She took a small nap, and then when she woke up, it's been 5 years later, and her mom's been dead for 3 years. So she's in a similar stage of mourning as Wanda is. And even though that it wasn't necessarily as traumatic of a death that maybe Vision had, it was that's still a traumatic thing to happen to a person. That is a traumatic way to lose somebody, is waking up and finding out that no, they're not okay. They died 3 years ago. You missed it. You missed this part of their life. So
it's very sad.
It really makes, I think, Monica in that way just a really nice foil for Wanda. And also, I think the perfect person to, if there is going to be a happy ending, it is going to be thanks to the great work of Monica Rambeau.
Absolutely. Now, I'm wondering, we get our first superhero landing of the episode. Love a good superhero landing. But she looks around with her now piercing blue eyes, and I'm wondering how they're going to go with the name. I don't know if they're going to go with her photon name. I don't know if they're going to go with Spectrum. Yeah, because she sees the electromagnetic spectrum. Like, that's what her vision looks like. But there is a potential that since Captain Marvel is out, like maybe if Captain Marvel does choose to go out of the world, I know that Spectrum / Photon / Monica Rambeau has taken up the mantle of Captain Marvel as well. So that could also be a possibility. But she takes off her spacesuit and runs off to find Wanda, and we have that classic black and white undershirt that she's wearing that's very reminiscent of her comic book costume. So I'm excited to see what her superhero costume ends up being, because I absolutely love Monica. And brings us to Vision and Darcy.
Yeah. Vision and Darcy, they are driving the van very slowly in the rain to Wanda, and Darcy's kind of explaining Vision his backstory, because as we know, Vision doesn't remember any of this. And it's this very kind of casual go back to the events of Endgame of Wanda killed me. Yeah, but you wanted her to. Well, why would I do that? Well, so you could save half the universe. Did it work? Yeah. Until the guy rewrote time and killed you again in front of her.
Yeah. Wanda's been through it.
It was, I think, a hilarious recap of just those events in Endgame, and also probably really nice for people who have not seen the movies yet and don't know that part of the backstory. I'm really curious to see if that is enough to fill people in on what's going on. But we see that they are having trouble getting to Wanda. There keeps being delays in the road, and in a confessional, Vision speculates that maybe this is because Wanda doesn't want them there yet, and that this is just Wanda trying to throw roadblocks in their way.
We come back from the antidepressant commercial, which is them with like gray clouds and rain, and I think that's funny that it kind of seeps into the reality, because she brings that up, that it never rains in Westview, yet here it's raining now, and that's causing a lot of roadblocks to happen. And you start to wonder if maybe it's Wanda, But it seems like Wanda's dealing with a lot right now, and it seems like she genuinely does not know where Vision is to keep him from coming. So I think this might be someone else. Who could it be? We'll figure it out in a second. We go
then go to
back to Wanda.
Back to Wanda, where Monica just bursts into her house. Which first, when I saw that, I was like, Monica, baby. Do you not remember how this went last time? Like, you're just gonna break into her home and scream at her? But also, like, Wanda isn't necessarily the most reasonable person to talk to right now. So it's not like there's a really better way to go about that, right? Like, what's she gonna do? Like, knock on the door with like a bottle of wine and flowers and be like, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. But it cracked me up when she just basically kicked the door down and was like, Wanda!
It doesn't help that this woman that she kicked out is now back somehow.
Yeah.
And she's very, very mad at that. She tells her to get out of her house and then is just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm showing everyone my powers. And she literally lifts Monica out and is just dangling her in front of everyone. I like this interaction because it seems like Monica's kind of getting a little bit more of a handle on her powers. It looks like she's the one that actually stops Wanda from completely shooting her out through the hexagon again. She kind of stops her, and Wanda is like, all you do is lie. She thinks that Monica's the one that's behind this, and behind making her feel so bad. And she slams Monica down into our second superhero landing, in which she actually exerts some of her power. And it kind of shocks Wanda because Wanda wasn't expecting that. But it also, I guess, to go off of your mailman theory, it's right in front of the mailman. He does have a bunny hat, like a bunny on his hat. I'm pretty sure Agnes would be able to, have a hand in that, which we'll go into as Agnes seems to come in right again on cue to stop this whole thing because Geraldine's getting a little too close to the truth. Just like she did when that was happening in episode 3 before she got busted out. Agnes was there to question who Geraldine was, just like she's there to stop everything from happening. Right on cue, she leads Wanda away to her house, and then we go into Vision's last scene of the episode, which I thought was a very funny scene for 2 reasons.
So it is Vision. He's having it's back at the van. They're still being held up, and he's having another confessional. And he kind of talks about how, man, Wanda's been through a lot. We both have. Like, this just is like stories to me, but this is like 2 weeks ago for her. I can fly. What am I doing?
Yep. I love that part. I think it's funny that he flies twice. Once out of the interview, like the confessional, he pieces out, and then the second time in the real world of the sitcom, he also just phases through the roof of the truck, which I thought was funny because that's absolutely what he does. Again, he still plays the character he was assigned. He's still like, okay, we're in a car, and this is the only place we can be because this is the world of the sitcom. And then he's like, wait a minute, no, none of this is real. Nothing matters. I need to go and find my wife because she's not doing well. And he's right. If only Vision was there. Again, he might have been being stopped by someone other than Wanda. I feel like Wanda asking where Vision is and the kids not knowing and her being like, what's happening? I'm not myself without Vision. And Vision just having such a hard time getting back to her is, again, with the last episode, and having Agnes be the one that causes him to break the barrier in the first place. She was the one that egged him on subconsciously, and we'll find out why in just a second. I think Agnes might be the one stopping him from getting home because he can probably save Wanda if he did.
Yeah.
So we go back to basically the end of the episode where Wanda is in Agnes's very creepy house.
Yeah, first off, I like the sign that hey, Agnes is definitely not who she seems, and you're about to go into hell. I like that the first sign of that was Yo Gabba Gabba on the TV. That's
Absolutely.
very
The
fitting.
gateway.
Of
They are
all the
they are the
shows,
guardians of the gates of hell.
uh we see that or not even we see that Wanda's like straight up, hey, there, or no, we see the half-eaten sandwiches, and then Wanda sees the half-eaten sandwiches and is like, oh, my kids were eating these. Hey, Agnes, where are my children? And Agnes is like, oh, they're in the basement, with about as much tact as Tyler Hayward does with all of his hiding things from people. Really,
he's not good at it.
so Wanda goes to snoop down the basement. We see these creepy vines.
I like how Agnes answers her question of where the kids are, because it sounds, Wanda can't see her. To her, it sounds like Agnes is cheerful and like, oh, this is where they are, in the basement. Nothing suspicious. But the fact that it's not looking at Wanda while Agnes is responding. We're watching Agnes as she's responding, and we can see, which again is just a testament to Catherine Hahn's acting, that her face is completely different from her voice. And she's like, all right, it's time to be evil. It's time to enact my plan. Because immediately after, Wanda ends up going to the basement, because that's one of the last things you want to hear from someone who's babysitting your kids is they're playing in my creepy house, in my creepy basement. Because as Wanda goes into her basement and sees this really creepy doorway leading to a completely different time period. Like this is from a time that didn't even have electricity for TVs. We're going into this stone dungeon overridden with vines. And you can see the aspect ratio change again. So we're back in reality now. So this could either be like the either outside the hex or the source of it.
I think it's outside the hex, because they've been really good about keeping consistent with that rule that when the aspect ratio isn't whatever TV period, that's inside the hex. It's cinematic, it's outside the hex. So I think that just means that Agatha has been able to exist in a space outside the hex unaffected, or at least as a space in this world that is its own thing and not affected by whatever hex Wanda did.
Definitely.
So yeah, Wanda goes into the basement. There is a glowing book there. So that's probably the dark seed, right? Like that's
the Darkhold?
Or the Darkhold, yeah. If it's the Darkhold, I'd just be kind of bummed, because that's just, I feel that would be officially giving Agents of Shield the boot.
Yeah. So this book that is glowing in this mysterious dungeon could potentially be the tie-in to Doctor Strange. Because if we notice in Doctor Strange, the restricted area of the library, I guess, that has all these powerful books, there is a book that is missing, that has been missing even after Mads Mikkelsen's character took the pages from the other book, but they're also all in a like a hexagonal little chain prison thing. They're all hexagons. It seems like hexagons have been a part of the MCU for a long time. So I could definitely see that as being the tie-in with Doctor Strange. And we see hexagons all over the top. There are runes inside these wooden hexagonal shapes. Again, everything is done on purpose. So I'm excited to see, maybe the book is the Darkhold, and that could potentially be one of our connectors to Doctor Strange. We have yet to see, but this is also our reveal of Agnes. Again, in this episode, it's basically made me feel like Oprah. Everybody's getting powers. You powers. A lot of really cool colors being brought into this. I'm very excited to see all the energies of all these different heroes and now villains play off of each other. But Faith, you've been talking a lot about Catherine Hahn and her character, which she finally reveals. So
Mm-hmm.
Let's round it out.
I'm like, listen, what I'm very happy to be wrong about something. Like, that was such a good character reveal. Like, and also like I have been saying that it's probably going to be Agatha Harkness. Like, you can hear back in episodes I say it's probably this, but maybe it could be this. But I'm okay with that. The one thing I do hope is that she does get to stay the big bad for the series. Just because we're at episode 7 at this point, we only have 2 more episodes to go, and she's just built everything up so beautifully. It almost feels like it would just be kind of a disservice if somewhere in the middle of episode 8, it's like, oh, it's this guy we got to be worried about now.
Right.
Because I'm not going to care because it's not Catherine Hahn.
I think they're going to keep Catherine as the villain until the show ends. And at the end of the show, they're going to reveal that maybe it was someone else. But that's a story for a whole nother thing.
That's okay if they do it that way. That would just be kind of like how Avengers, Loki was the big bad in Avengers, and then we see Thanos at the end, who is like, "Mwaha!" I'd be fine with that. But Catherine Hahn has been we've been saying it since episode 1. She's been killing it. She's been so specific in her acting and just conveying the exact subtext. And now that we know that she's actually Agatha Harkness, and we're like, oh yeah, we're not actually reading in too much into that. That's actually how good her acting has been here.
And I love, again, just one more shout out to the costume and art department. We actually don't see her with her brooch the whole episode until she reveals herself as Agatha Harkness, and she is now with her brooch. Her hair is all crinkly, wrinkly, just like crazy witch hair. And I love the little hand movement she does to close the door. So good. She's absolutely killing it as this character. And the last theme song just gave me absolute life. We get to see.
She really just that look she gives the camera as she puts Wanda under her little mind control spell. We see purple magic. Her magic is purple. I think that is
beautiful.
It's such a distinctive color. But, and then we go into it was Agatha All Along theme song. It is this totally rad Monsters reminiscent theme song of just Agatha bragging that she's been the one behind everything that's gone wrong, including just kind of scenes that are kind of like wink, wink, nudges of this is what she was doing in this actual moment.
I loved everything about this sequence. I love that we get a glimpse of her full final form as the witch Agatha Harkness, and I wish
wait to see that.
I wish we got a little bit more, but from what we saw, the bottom half of this outfit looks so cool, and it's just gonna get even better. But no, she's sang the theme song, and I love seeing her pretend to be innocent. Because she's always smiling, she's putting on an act, and you're like, she looks at the camera like, me? How could you ever assume that I'm the bad guy? Look at my face.
Little cutaways in the Agatha All Along was the moment in the car with Vision where she just kind of turns to the mirror and kind of prepares herself for the performance of a lifetime.
So good. And you can, again, I'm very excited to rewatch this show because I'm pretty sure they planted these things early on in other episodes, and you can see when stuff cut away and you're like, oh, this is what it cut away from, and I can see now why it cut away from that.
Yeah. I also really liked this theme song. I could be wrong, but my interpretation of it is she is the one behind the sitcom, the sitcom reality. Both in the fact that when she arrives in it, everything is in color, and when she starts walking to the door, that's when everything fades into the sitcom. And because she also kind of has that like kind of wink to the camera of like, yeah, it was me all along. Everything fades into black and white, and she goes into Wanda's house. The name of the song is "It Was Agatha All Along." That's just the name of the song. It's so catchy. I'm going to be singing that forever. Catherine Hahn has an amazing singing voice. I really hope that Agatha Harkness is a character that we get to see in Marvel for a while. I hope that she kind of fills that Loki type space of just kind of this chaotic. I hope that they don't do what Marvel always does and kill their coolest villains like when they appear. And Marvel has a real bad killing villains problem.
So actually, this also gives us more insight into who Pietro actually is. It seems like this is someone that she is controlling. It was Agatha all along, which which makes sense because again, Pietro was asking questions to Wanda. But here's the thing: I don't think she created this reality. It doesn't show her creating things. It just shows her manipulating what's already there.
What I think Wanda created the original hex, but I don't think that hex included brainwashing everyone into her pain and to acting out these fantasies. I think that the hex in its original state was to keep Vision out of S.H.I.E.L.D. sights in a way that they can't see him, they can't read him. No one here has ever seen him. He can live here. He can be alive. I think him being alive there might have even just been like a happy accident, or maybe she found out that because I think Wanda's the Mind Stone. Vision was alive with the Mind Stone. She destroyed him. I think she kind of. I think there has to be kind of within it comes to the Soul Stones or the Reality Stone or the Infinite. Yeah, her power does come from the Mind Stone. Maybe in its absence, it's like a Princess Yue and Avatar situation where the Mind Stone died. It gave her life. Now she becomes the Mind Stone. So I think that's where her power's coming from. And I also think that's why Vision can only stay alive within the Hex. I think the Mind Stone is what gave Vision life. So I think when she is close to her in the Hex, I think that's what the Hex originally was. And I think Agatha, maybe in a pursuit of power or
probably to drain Wanda of her power by making her create.
That would be why it's all glitching too. That would make but I think the sitcom and all the horrific shit. I think that is Agatha's powers at work.
I would definitely agree. And I mean, speaking of, I love just the ending of the Agatha all along. We get to see that she was the person who was talking to Wanda saying, do you think this is maybe what you deserve? Which is, we're just seeing kind of what Agnes is thinking. Maybe Agnes does believe that Wanda deserves this. We don't know what her motives are. But she also killed Sparky, and how dare she?
I do wonder, though.
Speaking of Evan Peters and being under Agatha's control, he finally shows up in this episode after being absent for it. In our first mid-credit scene, I'm wondering if this will be the only mid-credit scene we'll get, which would make me very sad.
I almost missed it. Why episode 7 would you start doing that?
I don't know.
I do think that Evan Peters, I do think, again, Evan Peters is Ralph, I think... Actually, and it was when you pointed out that Ralph had the bunny pen. I think not Doc Scratch, that's the Homestuck character. But Mr. Scratchy, the bunny, that's her familiar. Familiars can change in appearance. It would make sense if that was Ralph or Evan Peters. That's my theory. That's my new back alley theory because the last one didn't work out so well. So we had to take a break from it.
This one was a very interesting post-credit scene because we don't know exactly what's going on in terms of what Monica has found. Because as she's walking around looking at everything, she doesn't have her glowing eyes. But she opens...
Oh, I just remembered something else. Her eyes are purple.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another thing. As soon as she opens the door, her eyes turn purple. But she isn't it's not like Wanda. She doesn't become catatonic. It seems like her eyes are turning purple and she's trying to kind of fight it off in a way. But yeah, we get Evan Peters in this. And I want to say I love Stoner Quicksilver. He looks so funky in his beanie and his little patterned. Again, just major props to this art department team. I love everything they're putting out. But when Monica looks at him, she's not in a trance. She's actually still aware of what's happening. She's able to see when someone is talking to her. which is Evan Peters. So as a minion, as maybe the familiar, maybe she can overpower him, since he doesn't seem to have the same intense powers as Agnes does. But we'll find out. We'll find out what fate befalls Monica in our next episode, which makes me sad because that means we're only one away from ending the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a really, really awesome time. And again, this episode just had me screaming many, many times because so much happened.
It's been such a fun ride, and I'm really just excited to see how everything comes to its conclusion. And it feels like it feels natural the way that they're doing it. A lot of the reveals and the questions that we've been asking ourselves have been answered, or at least to have semblances of an answer that in the next 2 episodes, it's going to be really satisfying to see how they just piece everything together and conclude it. But the pacing has been amazing, and I'm so excited to finish this ride. It's been such a fun ride, and it's been going to be nice to see it to the end.
How do we think the show's going to continue? Because now I guess we'd be going into present day. Is it going to be a show format anymore, or are we going to be going into just now cinematic, strictly MCU stuff? I wonder what kind of show would be in the 2010s, because it seems like we're still doing a lot of these mockumentary type shows. So
I don't feel like the 2010s sitcom really has its own distinctive style, really. We covered multicam, we covered live in front of a studio audience, we've now covered single cam. There's really not really any more iconic sitcoms for them to, well, maybe they'll just do a villains episode and it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But it's Always Sunny in Agnes's room, and it's Agnes and Evan Peters, and Tyler Hayward shows up there too, because he's also kind of a douchebag.
Wonderful. Love it.
I'm kind of at a point where I think I know how we've got here. I already ranted about Wanda being the Mind Stone, blah 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 blah. I don't quite have a handle on how it's going to end yet, though. Everything's kind of coming together, and a lot of questions have been answered, and it's left me at a spot where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know anymore. Everything's meaningless.
I mean, that's kind of, again, what we're getting right now with it, like, as the audience. We don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know what's currently happening. Everything's a mess. Again, we're all Wanda. Nothing matters. So tune in to our next episode as we keep going through, sadly, the last couple episodes of this show.
Tell us what you thought of the episode 7 in the comments, or send us an email at sirensdenpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Ty, our producer, and to Sean Thomas at Fuzz Studio for our theme song.
We'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye.